And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another chess book review. And this time, I think that many of you are not going to know the book I will talk about. And it's one very special book for me because the first time I studied it, I was, I think, around 1800, and it really helped me tremendously to level up my positional and strategical play. And it's one book, it's quite an old one, but at the same time, I think it still holds tremendous value even nowadays. And if you're also in that rating range, or even if you're a bit above that and haven't studied a lot of the classics and would like to improve in that area, I think you're really gonna love the material which I'm going to show you here and talk a little bit about the book in general. Now, the book which I'm talking about is this one. I have the German edition. It's written by Yaroslav Srokovski, who I think is originally from Ukraine, but has been living in Germany for a long time. And I think he's also usually chess coaching. I don't think he has written a lot of other books, but I will show you the table of contents in English. Obviously, the book is also available in English from New in Chess, who published it in the year 2014. The German edition, I think that it came out already a little bit earlier in 2013. And yeah, I studied this book the first time, I think when I was like 1800. It was a long time ago, probably like 13 years or something like that. But even now, I'm often browsing through it, collecting a lot of valuable material from my students. And I think it's really a great book, and it delivers a fantastic introduction to chess strategy and positional play. Big thanks, by the way, to my first coach, International Master Harald Schneider-Zinner, who recommended this book to all of his students, and in general, always very grateful of his teaching methods. I really profited a lot from him specifically. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to show you the table of contents right here, which is public. You can view that if you just type in the book title, which, by the way, in English, if you're wondering, is Chess Training for Post Beginners. I will also put a link into the video description down below, a basic course in positional understanding. So the table of contents, it is structured quite nicely. And I think the author, Mr. Srokovski, did a great job to, not go into too much depth, and it's generally not really theoretical. I'm studying a lot of different books now, which often tend to go quite a lot into the theory and explaining a lot there, which can also be quite useful. But I think, especially if you're around that range, you just need a lot of examples to get that understanding. The first chapter is Pieces Cut Off from the Play, which I'm actually going to show you a very famous example in a second, which he also included in the book. Open files, also some examples which I want to show you. Strong and weak squares, weak complexes and weak diagonals, pawn majority on the queen side, strength of the passed pawn, weak pawns, king in the middle, good knight versus bad bishop, good bishop versus bad knight, the advantage of the bishop pair in the endgame, and the advantage of the bishop pair in the middle game. So, of course, if you are already a very strong player, maybe a titled player, some of these things are probably going to be more or less clear to you. But what I love about the book is that most of the examples, I think that young players nowadays are probably not going to know, at least not going to know all of them. And I think it's quite important to study those classics. All right, so what is covered in the book specifically? I'm going to show you a couple of examples of different positions which the author has covered. And the first one right here is from the first chapter, locking out pieces, or I think he put it a bit differently, pieces cut off from the play. For those of you who are cultured chess players and know the classics, you're going to know this one immediately. This was Winter against Capablanca from the year 1919. And it's a great introduction to this topic, first of all. Capablanca here played the move g5. And first of all, knight takes g5 doesn't work so well because of knight takes d5, and black is winning material. So Winter played the move knight takes f6 check, queen takes f6, bishop g3, and here comes the whole point of all of it, which is the move bishop g4. White played h3, and now Capablanca went for this transition, and now we can see that the bishop on g3 is actually locked out of the game forever. Still, it's not a trivial win, and the engine is probably going to hold that, but Capablanca showed that in a very nice fashion how to win it. And I'm not going to show the rest of the game, but the general thing to understand here is that black is basically up a piece on the queen side. On the king side, there is no real way to break through. I've also analyzed this position with a couple of my students, and some of them really wanted to play the move f5, but that would be a conceptual mistake because then white can take. And now all of a sudden the bishop on g3 is actually doing something. Pawn on e5 is going to be attacked, and if rook f8, rook e1, the position is equal because here material is balanced. So what Capablanca did, he didn't rush, he played f6. And then what you need to understand is that black should play on the queen side. So what Capablanca tried to do is open files, open diagonals on the queen side. And this is how eventually he was able to win the game. I really liked one thing which also Srokovski wrote in the book. Translated, it would mean something like play there where you have the advantage, which again is a very simple thing. And if you are maybe an international master, grandmaster already, you're probably gonna say, okay, why do I need to even hear that? Still, I do think even for myself, when I'm reading through these books, I think it often serves as a good reminder, even for stronger players. Even those simple things, I think it definitely doesn't hurt to repeat those very simple principles. Yeah, let's go to the next example. You can find this game on, I'm sure many different YouTube channels are going to cover that. Also Kasparov, I think, covered it in my great predecessors. And I will not go into much more depth here. Okay, so the next example was from the open file chapter, another game of Capablanca against Vidmar from the year 1922. And Capablanca had the white pieces. Again, I guess it's more of a simple example, but I actually was able to use exactly this idea in a fairly recent game of mine. Obviously, it's hard to say if I maybe would have found it or known it otherwise as well, but for me now it was very simple to play the following motive. In this position, Capablanca played the move knight takes d5. And after c takes d5, he went bishop d3, and again, a very simple concept, but white here is controlling the c file, and black will not be able to get the moves bishop b7 and rook c8, because if bishop b7 comes, then white could come in with the queen to c7. Also, first of all, the pawn on h7 is also hanging for the time being. Other moves here are not so strong, by the way. Like, again, when I was talking about this position with a few of my students, some recommended the move, wanted to go for the move e4, for example, but here black is doing quite well because now white cannot really use the c file. Black will play c5 next, and the position is probably okay for black. Same goes for knight e4, then bishop b7 and c5 will come quickly. So the only way for white to use the slight lead in development is actually to capture on d5. Also, e takes d5 doesn't work because of bishop d3, and then there's a double attack, and white is winning a pawn. So after cd5, bishop d3, black's position is already quite bad, but Capablanca was able to show a very nice technique. Also, what I really like in this position, this was played in the game, queen a4. Queen takes b2 loses material because of this, by the way. Again, we'll not go into more detail here. But after queen a4, Capablanca played the move h3, which was also given an exclamation mark by the author. And yeah, those moves are really nice to study when it comes to this approach of playing chess, which is more positional, more strategical, more prophylactic. And you see many great players, not only from the past, making those small improvement moves. And when I turned on the engine, it was funny that h3 is in fact one of the best moves also in the position. Black is just so paralyzed, he cannot really do anything. Whenever the knight moves, then the knight will come to e5. That's actually what happened in the game. And white will just make some luft for the king, which can always be useful to have the h2 square, never to get back rank mated. And Capablanca then was able to win the game nicely. Okay, so I'm going to show you one or two more examples. This one, again, probably many of you are going to know it, but if not, even more important. This was Karpov against Wolfgang Unzicker, a classic when it comes to open files. And yeah, if you don't know the example, you can maybe try to stop the video now and figure out what Karpov did here. If you know it, obviously it's going to be quite simple for you, because I don't think anyone forgets this game once they've seen it. Karpov here played the move bishop a7. Like, if you see the game for the first time, I think it's going to be almost a shock that white can play a move like this, because what's the point? First of all, the whole point is that white wants to take control over the a file, but he cannot really do that for the time being, because he cannot magically put his rook jump over the bishop on b1. That just doesn't work. And if white makes some slow move, like, I don't know, king h2 for example, then black would be able to take on a2, and then black is actually the one who is fighting for the a file. And after bishop a7, it's funny that black cannot really get rid of the bishop here, and now white is slowly preparing to get the other rook to a1, and this is exactly what happened in the game. Black could have probably improved at some point, but still it was a fantastic idea by Karpov, and also the rest of the game is really worthy of studying. He won in a very nice fashion after that, but please make sure to get the book, or to get it from to check out the game from other sources to enjoy the rest of it by yourself. Yeah, another example which I want to show you is, and also the final one, was a game of Botvinnik, which I haven't seen being covered in many other resources before. Maybe that's my own fault, but I have been reading quite a lot of different chess books, and I never really saw that example before in other books. This was Botvinnik against Salo Floa from the year 1936. And Botvinnik here made a very shocking move from the white side. I think this position was covered in weak squares or maneuvering pieces. And yeah, you can stop the video and try to think what white can do here if you don't know the position yet. Botvinnik played the pretty shocking move c5 here, which looks very anti-positional, because usually you want to place the pawns on the opposite square of your opponent's bishop. But here he had this brilliant plan of trying then to get the knight to d6 all the way, which Botvinnik actually was able to nicely show in the game. White also has some other moves. The engine claims that a5 is even a little bit more precise than c5, but it's generally for the simple concept to understand those ideas. And here it is kind of a, it is an exception, because the bishop cannot really attack the black pawns. That's why white can do that here. Floa played a5, which is a good move. Otherwise, white could even have the idea to play b4 and b5 next. But after knight b1, now Floa needed to play very actively to go against white's plan. He played queen f8, which is too slow. And after knight a3, bishop d8, the knight came to c4 and then to d6. And white here already has a clear advantage, which Botvinnik then was able to get to a full point nicely. Again, I will not show the rest of the game in this video. I will just show what black should have done. Rook d5 should have been played here. And after knight a3, now b6 is the way to hold the balance. Knight c4, b takes c5. When a pretty big mess appears, it is objectively around equal. But, it's about those general concepts. Yeah. Also, what I can tell you, there are going to be some objective mistakes in the book. It's quite clear since it was written a long time ago. But I don't really think that matters. I think it's really about the concepts which the author successfully delivers in that book. And even if there are one or two tactical mistakes, which now the engine are going to claim are wrong, even if they are there, I don't really think it matters from a standpoint to improve, And overall, now we're coming to the end of the video. What I should have probably also done in the previous one is give the book a ranking, and I will give this book out of 10 a very high ranking. I would actually give it 9.5 out of 10. I'm not even sure myself what would be missing for the the missing half a point. I think for me personally, it's a bit nostalgic, this book, because it was really the introduction for myself to those positional concepts, which I didn't really know before I was studying this book, and this was the first time I understood many of those positional ideas. So I can highly recommend it to you, especially if you're in the range I talked about earlier, so probably below 2000 rating. But even if you're above that and have some spare time to go over classics, I think it's really worth giving it a shot. And my biggest respect to the author, who I think made a great work here. Again, I will put the link to the book in the description down below. I hope you enjoyed this small little book review, and let me know with which ones I should continue next. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more of me, you can head to the video description down below and check out some of my other courses and my other social media as well. And I will see you guys soon.